hired this high school graduate? He's a disgrace to the company."
The voice of the newly appointed CEO, Samantha, echoed through the office. I felt increasingly uncomfortable in the buzzing workplace. Samantha didn't miss the instant reaction and smiled winningly.
"Get him fired immediately. If you leave people like garbage forever, it will affect other people."
"Sure, I'll fire him right away."
Samantha ordered it, and Mike, the department head, responded with a grin. Mike had always been tough on me. He wanted to get rid of me, no doubt about it. Leaving 2 triumphant looks behind, I left the office. But I wasn't going down without a fight. They had no idea that I was going to fire back a few days later. I could already see the 2 crying and apologizing. "My name is John Smith. I turned 40 this spring, just an ordinary middle-aged guy. Until last month, I worked as an office clerk at a company, but the company began downsizing due to the recession. I was the first target, having aged without ever attaining a managerial position. Having changed jobs before, I wasn't too devastated, but it was still a shock when I was laid off. I've been working hard all my life. Maybe I can afford to take it easy for half a year." Born into a low-income family, I was the only one among my friends who chose to work right after high school, while everyone else naturally went on to university. We were all close during elementary school, but as we moved on to high school, I gradually became isolated due to my poverty. The turning point was towards the end of high school. I guess I was a distraction to them, not going to university, at a time when everyone else was stressed and irritable about their studies. Before I knew it, I hardly had anyone I could call a friend. In such a situation, there was only one man who could talk to me as an equal. That was Kevin. His family owned a business, and he had lived a wealthy life from his birth. Our circumstances were complete opposites, yet he was a man with surprisingly little confidence in himself. Crushed by his parents' expectations, Kevin often complained that talking to me, who didn't treat him any differently, was when he felt most at ease.
"I'm destined to take over my dad's company, so I can choose what I really want to do. I have to study I don't like, even at home. I can stand it."
"But you're doing your best, which is amazing. I will work hard too, and become just as wealthy as you."
"If I manage to take over the company, let's work together. Having you around would make me more motivated."
I hadn't been in touch with him whom I had made such a promise to since high school graduation. He must be busy with his daily life. I wonder what Kevin thinks if he sees that I am unemployed. As these thoughts crossed my mind, a single phone call drastically changed my life. About a week after I quit my job, I received a call from an unfamiliar number. Picking up the phone without much thought, I heard a man's voice, sounding rather nervous.
"Hello, is this John speaking?"
"Yes, it's me. And may I ask who's calling?"
"I'm relieved. I was worried you might have changed your number."
When I identified myself, the caller's voice brightened up as if a flower had bloomed.
"It's me. I'm Kevin, your friend from high school. Do you remember me?"
I was surprised since I had been thinking about Kevin recently. We hadn't been in touch for over 10 years, so recognizing his voice was unexpected. My spirits lifted, momentarily forgetting about being laid off. It's been so long. How many years has it been? How have you been?
"I've been getting by. I have something to report to you. Next month, I'll officially take over my father's company. I'm finally going to be the CEO."
That's amazing. You've always worked hard since our school days. Seeing him struggle yet persevere, I felt genuinely happy as if it were my own achievement.
"Thank you. By the way, John, what are you doing now?"
Asked by Kevin, I hesitated slightly. I remembered that I was fired just a few days ago, and I felt the difference between me and him. Feeling pitiful for getting depressed over my situation compared to my friend even as an adult. I laughed self-deprecatingly and shared my current status. I was laid off from the company I worked at for several years. Just the other day, I've been working nonstop, so I thought about taking a little break. To my surprise, Kevin reacted unexpectedly.
That's perfect. Actually, I called because I want to hire you. Do you remember the promise we made back in school?
The promise that you wanted to work with me once you became the president. I remember, but are you serious? For me, jobless, there couldn't be a better offer. However, things wouldn't be that simple. As I hesitated, Kevin sighed deeply on the other end of the phone.
I'm becoming the president, but honestly, I don't feel cut out for something so grand. I want someone I can trust to support me. Everyone in the company competes for position and prestige. It's unsettling. That's why I need someone reliable like you, John.
Kevin's company is a major enterprise, well known in the region. With many ambitious employees, there must be a lot of internal competition. He doesn't like such a tense atmosphere. But his effort to take over the company must have been immense, beyond my imagination. I'm honored that you still rely on me. Please let me work with you.
Thank you. Let's make this company better together. I have a job that I can confidently entrust to you.
And so, I ended up joining Kevin's company. The scale of this new workplace was incomparable to the previous company I had worked for, and I felt my spine straighten on my first day. Kevin wanted me to work as his right-hand man. However, I requested to start from the bottom for a few years, so I was assigned to a certain department. My assignment was in the sales department, and my boss, Mike, who is the department head, was a strong-willed man.
You are lucky to be hired at your age. Middle-aged men like you are not needed in this company. What was the new president thinking?
Mike, just 5 years older than me, spat these words at our first meeting. Ambitious Mike seemed unhappy about Kevin becoming the president.
Are you a high school graduate? You're incompetent. So don't go against what I say. Just obey orders silently. Got it?
No wonder Kevin felt uneasy with such employees around. I felt dizzy from Mike's personal attacks, but I couldn't show weakness, being expected to perform. However, since I was expected by Kevin, I couldn't express my weakness. I forced a smile and made up my mind. Yes, I look forward to your guidance and support. My days began to feel like I was nothing more than a servant to Mike. I was visiting several companies daily to secure contracts, with no time even for lunch. If my progress was even slightly poor, Mike would yell at me so loudly that I would shrink. He exerted pressure on other employees too, but it felt somewhat different with me.
John, you're so dumb you should work through mealtimes. It's disrespectful to others. Even with that, you won't measure up to me. Realize you're just stealing your salary.
Mike's demands escalated day by day. He would often assign me additional work just before the end of the workday. On such days, I missed the last train home. It was tough on my not-so-young body. Are elites like that? They're malicious. I was staring at my computer in the dark office, and Kevin came to me with a cup of coffee.
Working overtime again today? Remember, your health is your capital. Don't overdo it.
You're one to talk, always working late yourself.
I can't relax unless I'm pushing myself. Plus, my wife is so strong-willed, I feel small at home.
Even the president of a big company feels powerless at home. Amid these hectic days, this time might have been the most calming for me. Seeing my friend striving so hard up close gave me strength too. Despite Mike's relentless demeaning instructions, I persevered through sheer tenacity. Then, a month later, something happened that shook me. Kevin collapsed due to poor health. Clearly a result of his excessive work. Given his personality, The stress of carrying such a big company must have been too much for Kevin. He decided to take a 6-month leave from the company to focus on his treatment.
I'm sorry, I'm the president, but I'm so unreliable.
You're an idiot. You just overworked yourself. You better get well and return because I'll watch the company for you.
John, you're dependable. That's quite the line for someone only months into the job. Thank you so much.
Until he returns, I have to cling to this company alone. Since I have been working since I graduated from high school, I was physically strong. By the time Kevin returns, I want to achieve something I can be proud of, so I put even more effort into my sales rounds. Gradually, I started getting contracts and building good relationships with other companies, slowly beginning to see results. Mike, the department head, didn't seem too pleased when I secured contracts.
Anybody could do that job. Don't get it twisted. Without our company's name, a high school grad like you wouldn't get the time of day. Remember that.
After that, Mike began cutting into my sales time, piling on clerical work relentlessly. I had to work more overtime to balance office work and sales. Gradually, I had more days where I couldn't even catch the last train home. And I heard Kevin's hospital stay might might extend. Consequently, Kevin's wife took over as the interim president.
I am Samantha, stepping in until Kevin's return. I look forward to everyone's hard work.
I had an impression of her being strong-willed from Kevin's stories, but hearing her speak and seeing her commanding presence straightened my spine. However, I thought that I had no contact with Samantha, who became the president, but that was my mistake. For some reason, Samantha frequently visited the sales department.
Sales are the backbone of the company. It's only right that I care about it.
Saying this, she often summoned Mike for meetings in the conference room, casting stern looks at other employees. She seemed to favor Mike, appearing a bit softer in his presence. They were close in age, and I felt their relationship was close. However, I had no time to worry about such things. After meeting with Mike, Samantha would invariably come to me.
So, you're the John that my husband mentioned. What can you do?
I have developed sales skills and have already secured some contracts and established key clients. I have a negotiation scheduled for this afternoon as well.
You're doing the same gritty work as a new hire at your age. Aren't you ashamed?
Suddenly confronted with such words, I was at a loss for words.
With the company, as long as you're getting contracts, that's what matters. If I think you're even slightly useless, I'll fire you on the spot.
This was no longer a conversation but a one-sided abuse against me from her. I was stunned that Kevin's wife was such a different character to Kevin. Kevin said he'd rather be at work than home. No wonder, with a wife like that. Perhaps Kevin's hospitalization was his most peaceful time, which made me feel conflicted as his friend. While I was working late, Mike and Samantha came over. They have been interrupting my work.
Pitiful, isn't it? All this overtime and no extra pay for you. Everyone else finishes their work within business hours, so you're the problem.
It's a shame for you. Samantha is taking us out for drinks now, and you're stuck with your work. Well, we'll enjoy ourselves while you keep at the overtime.
Their lowly harassment was so childish it almost made me laugh. Just a little more patience, I muttered to myself and faced the computer again. I worked in a workplace full of enemies without causing trouble, but one day I got into trouble. Another employee had botched a deal, and it seemed like the contract might be terminated. Fortunately, I had a close partner at the client, so I worked with a troubled employee to solve the problem. We struggled but managed to prevent the contract termination. However, it took so much time that it slightly impacted my sales performance. Still, I barely met my quota. I was relieved for a moment, but Samantha came to the sales department with a red face, knowing where she had heard it from.
John, are you aware of your performance this month?
Yes, there were some glitches, but I did meet my quota.
You should be achieving much more than just the quota. Don't you feel any gratitude to the company that gave you a chance, considering your incompetence?
In front of the other employees, Samantha scolded me loudly. A colleague I had helped with a negotiation came to my defense, but Samantha dismissed it.
You think that if you make allies like that, someone will help you. I know what you are trying to do. That's how you approached my husband. I know you were his friend from school, but you are a scumbag.
That's not true. My relationship with Kevin, it's not like that. I genuinely respect him as my friend. Isn't this beyond the scope of work? When I finally stood up for myself, Samantha was taken aback. She must have thought I would always be docile, but I can't stay quiet when my friendship is under attack. After a moment of silence, as Samantha and I were locked in a stare, Mike came over with a smug grin.
What's all this din? The newbie seems to be causing quite a stir.
Then, Samantha clung to Mike as if she had found an ally.
John just barely met his quota, and now he's acting all high and mighty. Seems like he has no sense of gratitude towards the company.
Mike's arrival seemed to energize Samantha, and I began to feel irritated. I hadn't done anything wrong, and this conversation was a waste of time. Thinking it was time to end this, I was about to back down when Mike said,
Well, it can't be helped. After all, this guy is a high school graduate. You can't live without being shameless, right?
What? He's a high school graduate.
Samantha's face broke into a triumphant smile.
Who hired this high school graduate? He's a disgrace to the company.
It was President Kevin, now in the hospital. Maybe he couldn't refuse because of old time's sake. Right. After all, he's too soft and easily deceived.
Mike made such remarks, and I attempted to respond, but was overpowered by Samantha's assertiveness.
Get him fired immediately. If you leave people like garbage forever, it will affect other people.
Right on, Samantha. I absolutely detest working with such people. I'll fire him immediately. We don't need a high school graduate who lacks a spirit of service to the company. I'll find some reason to dismiss him.
Exactly. Then hurry up and prepare the paperwork. Eliminating a salary thief is also part of my job as the president.
The two chuckled and glared pressuredly at the employees around them. I watched this with a sense of detachment. That's enough. Speaking up is pointless. I didn't want to hear Mike and Samantha's laughter anymore. Silently, I turned on my heel and walked away. While apologizing to a colleague trying to stop me, I gathered my belongings and left the office. After exiting the large building, I looked up at the floor where the office was located. Mike and Samantha were probably feeling very satisfied by now. They must be relieved, thinking they can finally build their empire without the nuisance of my presence. I felt disheartened. I let out one sigh and called Kevin in the hospital. I'm sorry, Kevin. I was forced out sooner than expected.
No, I should be the one apologizing. I'm sorry for putting you through this, but there's no one I trust more than you.
The role Kevin entrusted to me. It was an internal investigation. Normally, it would make sense to hire someone external for the audit, but due to someone inside engaging in espionage, such investigations were getting exposed. Even before Kevin took over as the president, there were signs of misconduct and shadows within the company, which the previous president was also concerned about.
I want to clean up this company. It's important to me, and it was inherited from my father. Plus, for the sake of those earnestly working hard, I want the wrongdoers to reflect on their actions.
You've always been straightforward, respecting the company and your father. I understand your feelings. The plan was to sneak amateurs in as investigators. The investigation could involve recording suspicious behavior, capturing evidence, something anyone could do. The last piece was deciding whom to trust with this plan. I tried my best to live up to your trust. I found evidence. I also recorded being yelled at earlier.
I'm sorry for putting you in this tough spot, but you truly helped me.
It's a request from my best friend. Piece of cake. Over the phone, Kevin sounded quite energetic. He seems to be doing well with his medical treatment. I felt relieved hearing his condition.
Take the evidence to my father. I can't leave the hospital yet. I'll speak to him in advance.
Understood. I'll take care of it. After hanging up, I searched for a taxi to head to his father's home, where I delivered the collected evidence the next day. The day after I handed over the evidence I had collected to Kevin's father as planned. I was relaxing at home after being fired when I received a call from Mike.
John, what on earth did you do?
Hello, I was expecting a call from you soon. I answered with a laugh, and Mike, his voice flipping, started shouting.
It was your doing, wasn't it? The police are at the company, causing chaos right now. They've seized my computer, and I can't do any work.
According to Mike, the police had suddenly stormed the company that morning and confiscated his computer. He was frantic about not being able to work, but it seemed there was more to his panic. You don't have to worry. Being in sales, you can just visit clients and earn that way. Or is there something you're afraid they might find? After my comment, Mike went silent. And no wonder. He had been involved in unspeakable misdeeds. I had heard rumors about him embezzling company funds and harshly treating newcomers into quitting. Despite his attempts to control information within the company, clients and others have been telling me all sorts of things. It seems they trusted me, who worked earnestly, over the duplicitous Mike. With their help, I was able to quickly identify the mastermind behind the fraud Kevin was talking about. In the last few years, money has been periodically missing from the company, so it might be a surprise audit, right? If you haven't done anything wrong, you have nothing to worry about.
How much do you know?
Well, how much, indeed, you'll find out soon enough. Then I heard Samantha's voice, as if she was nearby.
Do you think because you're incompetent and got fired, such harassment is acceptable? This is a serious issue that's shaking up the company. Pretending to be a detective just because you're a high school grad.
It's not without permission. Our president asked me to act.
I didn't instruct anything. Wait, my husband did.
She finally realized that I wasn't just causing trouble for fun but was conducting a formal investigation. I could hear Samantha trembling, her teeth clattering audibly. Samantha hastily tried to call Kevin from her smartphone. But the call ended abruptly without a ring. It's pointless. By now, he's probably preparing for a divorce and has blocked your calls.
Why am I being dragged into this?
Perhaps because you were the spy. In the past, when Kevin or the former president hired investigators, someone reported this to the mastermind in advance. The internal investigations have so far failed because of that spy. However, there were only a limited number of people who could do that spying. This spy could only be from Kevin's family, given the access required. Several attempts at internal investigations seem to have been undermined by someone leaking information beforehand, warning them to be cautious. It's odd, isn't it? Only insiders would know such information.
And what does this have to do with me? If you're trying to intimidate me, I'll sue you.
Even as she said this, her voice was trembling with disturbance. I replied calmly. I did some digging and found that you and Mike have been close since your student days, frequently going out for drinks even recently.
How dare you investigate that? But what of it? That's irrelevant.
Kevin has been in the hospital, and you hadn't been home. Where have you been staying? Faced with this question, Samantha fell silent. I already knew about her affair with Mike, having commissioned a detective to investigate them. I had asked a detective acquaintance to take evidence photos on the night she mentioned going out with Mike. Having changed jobs frequently, I had many acquaintances. This is a weapon that I, a high school graduate, have acquired in order to survive. Now, this weapon was poised to strike at those who had lorded over others unjustly. Don't insult the company and the values my friend has cherished. All the evidence has been passed to the former president, along with recordings of you exerting undue pressure on me and other employees.
Wait, the embezzlement was all Mike's doing, and he also forced me to have an affair. I'm not at fault.
Trying to escape the blame, are you? This whole mess started because of you.
I had to pull the phone away from my ear due to their loud voices.
How much money do you think I've given you? You spent it all on unsuitable clothes and bags. You're the bigger villain here.
It's because of your petty behavior that you've never been promoted beyond the department head. I'm the president's wife. I intend to stay happy, so just go to hell alone.
They had forgotten I was on the call and started bickering among themselves. Continuing the conversation seemed pointless. After hanging up, I began getting ready to leave. I went to the hospital to see Kevin. The investigation into Mike's computer revealed embezzlement. As a crime was committed for many years, the damage was reportedly over $50,000. He had squandered all of it on gambling, alcohol, and expenses for his affair with Samantha. Other executives connected to Mike were also implicated and faced consequences. This scandal was deeper and more extensive than anticipated, exposing long-hidden shadows within the company, much to the satisfaction of Kevin and the former president.
My father has been troubled for so long. I feel like I've finally been able to do something good for him.
You have always honored your parents ever since you were a student. You were already admirable when you respected your parents and showed them how to work hard. Kevin, who had been ill until then, was getting better as if the spell was broken. Is it because he was able to clean up company darkness? Was it easier being in the hospital than seeing Samantha?
Yeah, our relationship turned cold soon after we got married.
Kevin and Samantha had been married for about 3 years. But contrary to the initial phase of their relationship, her personality drastically changed post-marriage. Later it was revealed that she and Mike had been connected from the start, possibly planted as a spy to covertly aid Mike's embezzlement. Mike and Samantha must be so frustrated that I, a high school graduate, brought it all to light. It's a punishment for suffering, my friend. So, what will happen to Mike and Samantha now? Mike's termination was already decided. He would be facing a lawsuit demanding $80,000 in damages. That's a fair amount for an affair and embezzlement. I also plan to sue for the mental distress caused by his undue pressure, aiming to dislodge him from his privileged position. I'm going to push Mike off the elitist road he's been on. As for Samantha, she was undergoing divorce proceedings. She had been fired by the former president's authority. Kevin was expected to return to his position soon.
John, you've put so much on the line for this. I'll do my best too. I feel lighter than ever, both physically and mentally. I'm eager to get back to work right away.
He must have been under a lot of stress. I took my hat off to him for being able to work so hard in such a situation.
You're coming back to the company, right, John?
Me? Really? I was fired, you know.
Well, I'm the president now. I can twist the facts if needed.
You're abusing your power, man. But yeah, I'd love to come back. I knew life was about to get busy again. That day, we talked until the very end of visiting hours at the hospital, just like in our student days. A few days later, Coinciding with Kevin's return, I also went back to the company. Fortunately, the sales team welcomed me back, which was a relief. With some executives gone, many were promoted to fill the gaps, and I was appointed as the head of the sales department. Are you sure I'm the right person for this?
It's not just my decision, it's also the recommendation of the entire sales team. So, we all want you to do it.
And so, I continue to work hard under my esteemed friend. Recently, I saw Mike at an old convenience store on the outskirts of town. He, who always boasted about being an elite, was now being scolded by much younger part-time workers. No matter how educated he was, if he couldn't handle the cash register, he would get reprimanded. I watched from a distance as Mike caused a long line at the checkout, then left the store without speaking to him. As for Samantha, I heard rumors she was working in the nightlife, but I never saw her. According to the detective I know, her nature didn't suit even that job, and she was let go within days. Still unwilling to lower her standard of living, she apparently maxed out her credit cards and borrowed a large sum from a disreputable lender, but he haven't seen her around since that day. I decided it was better not to know more.
Great job today. If you're not working late, let's go out for a drink.
I can't believe the president himself is here to invite me. What an honor.
Work's over, so cut that out, will you?
Right. No overtime today, so let's go drink. Kevin and I have been on different paths, and we have had our own difficulties. Even so, life is interesting because we can laugh at each other like this now. Thinking this, I found myself enjoying time with my best friend more than ever before.